Hello, everybody. Good morning. Thank you for being here. We're going to take a few minutes and let everybody file in. We'll get started in about 3 or 4 minutes. While we're waiting for everybody to file in, please do introduce yourself. Let us know where you're tuning in from. Elaine, good morning. Amar, Amin, Andrea Hernandez, good morning. Andrew, Anthony, Arnar, Arthur, Ben, great to see you guys. Lewis, Soto from Miami, great to see you. Good morning. Elaine from Orlando, Michelle, Tarek, Carl from Calgary. We've got a Calgary resident on our team. Bronx, New York in the house. Let's go. Amar from India, Frank from California. Ginny, good morning. Robert from Atlanta. I'm also from Atlanta. Robert, GM. Jacobo from Mexico. Great to see you. Spencer from Phoenix. Eric from Virginia. Todd from Oklahoma. Robert from Newark. Great to see you guys. Thank you all for being here. Kier from Ohio. Alejandro from Uruguay. Nice. We got a worldwide crew here. Brett from Houston. Nathan from India. Ralph from Long Island. Russ from Carlsbad, California. Errol, good to see you. Ben from Singapore. Tracia from Charlotte. Dominic from Vienna, Austria. Beautiful, beautiful town. Gert, good morning from South Africa. Jason from Orlando. Craig, Glasgow. This is incredible. Thank you guys all for being here. Pete from Argentina. Brett from San Dimas. Rock Reagan from Cape Cod. Ganesh from Houston, Texas. Diego from Peru. Daniel, Sweden. Luis from Mexico. Vancouver, Arthur, great to see you. Alareza from Italy. Ginny, Toronto. David from Texas. We got James in the house, North Carolina. Carlos from Spain. Keith from the Scottish borders. Mark from Naples. Rajendran from Chennai, India. Emery from Atlanta. We got a couple ATLians in the house. Great to see you guys. No one's from Mars. No one from Mars yet. Ron from Singapore. Robert from Rochester, New York. Truly, all over the world. Killer. Burt Reynolds from the big screen. Vinay from Virginia. Yes. Will the recording be sent to you? I don't think it'll be sent to you, but we'll upload it to YouTube. Madhu from California. We're going to give it maybe like one more minute, y'all, and then we'll get started. Jordan from NYC. What's up? Miguel, the AI assistant. Steven, great to see you. Mohed from Saudi Arabia. Vinay, good morning. Aliko from Toronto. Amanu from Canada, Toronto, Canada. Great to have you here, Amanu. Steven, we're going to do about 1 hour total. Matthias from Argentina. No problem, Steven. We got 1 more minute. We're going to give it 1 more minute and then we'll get going. I don't want to waste too much time here. We got a lot to go over today. Tony from Toronto as well. A couple of folks from Toronto. Looks like Atlanta and Toronto. These are the big 2 cities today. Kuwait, Usman, great to have you. Paul from the UK, glad you're here. Hello from Venezuela, Juan. Great to see you. Just so you guys are aware, we do have a huge sale going on right now. Hook you up with the link. If anybody is interested in taking advantage of a killer deal, we've got it going right now. It ends today. Estes, no problem at all. Happy you're here. Arnar from Iceland, thank you for being here. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and get started. Um, just want to wish you guys a good morning. My name is Jason Krutsky. It's a pleasure to be with you all today. First and foremost, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your holiday to attend this webinar. On behalf of the entire team here at TrendSpider, we want to wish you guys all a very happy Memorial Day to those of you who are living in the United States. We'd also like to extend a very special thanks to any service members who are present in the audience this morning. We enjoy the freedoms that we have in our country because of your efforts. So a huge thank you to you guys as well. Now, a few housekeeping things to start. I'm not going to be answering any questions live during the presentation. If you have any questions that you're curious about as we go, you'll see that, post those questions in the Q&A chat box. You'll see I'm joined this morning by a few additional TrendSpider team members. We've got James in the house, we've got Ryan in the house, we've got Brad in the house. They'll all be in chat and we'll be able to answer any questions that you might have during the presentation. They'll also be providing links for you guys where necessary. We're going to be sharing a few really cool scans kind of towards the end of the presentation. So be on the lookout for those scanner links in the chat so that you can load them into your accounts if you're already a TrendSpider trader. And then finally, we're going to be doing a quick, maybe 10 to 20 minute long question and answer session at the very end as well. So let's go ahead and get started. Here at TrendSpider, we love technical analysis. We've spent years building tools designed to help traders make more informed trading decisions based on technicals. But there is another vital component to understanding and anticipating the future trajectory of a stock, and that's fundamentals. Behind every great technical pattern and or setup lies a real company with real dollars flowing into and out of it, helping to create those patterns. So while technical analysis allows us to understand what's happening on the chart, fundamentals offer a window into a company's underlying value. And savvy investors and traders are able to really integrate the two to work as a cohesive unit. Now, if you're here, you're probably here because you heard that we launched fundamental data to the platform. Some of you, if you're already TrendSpider traders, some of you might already be implementing the new data into your current workflows. To those of you who've already started exploring and utilizing this data, big kudos to you. Y'all are a step ahead. Hopefully, I'm going to be able to show you some things you haven't figured out yet. To those of you who haven't yet, this morning, I'm going to walk you through the process of bringing fundamentals into your day-to-day workflows. From visualization to discovery to monitoring, TrendSpider now offers the tools that you need to fully implement fundamentals into your entire analysis process. So let's start at the top level. First things first, if you've yet to explore fundamental data on the platform, your first question is probably, where is it? Right? And the simple answer to that question is it's kind of everywhere. So let's start from the ground up. The most basic way to visualize fundamental data is via the fundamentals indicator. Now, that indicator can be accessed in one of two ways. The first way is going to be through the other data button up here. So click on the three dots and choose fundamentals. And what this is going to do, it's going to open up your manage indicators toolbox, just like you would add your RSI, your VWAP, your moving averages. If you type fundamentals here, you're going to see a list of every fundamental data point that we offer on the platform. Think things like market cap, net profit margins, debt ratios, revenues, and so on. There are hundreds of data points here. Pick the data point that is of interest to you. Maybe you want to see EBITDA, select it, come down here to apply, and it's going to be visualized at the bottom of your screen. And just like any other indicator, since you can visualize it at the bottom of your screen, you can grab multiple fundamental data values and apply them, and you'll see more than one. You can have as many as you want up here. You can even have it on your chart as well. So let's talk quickly through how to read this thing. I'm just kind of zoom in here. It's really pretty simple, but it's good to have that baseline understanding. So the fundamental indicator itself really just has like 3 data points that are going to be of interest to you. First off, you've got the blue line that represents the metric value since the most recent earnings report, right? And that's visualized over here as well in the top left corner. You've got the dot at the earnings report, at the most recent earnings report, or at each earnings report. And that dot is going to be either green or it's going to be red. We have to zoom out a little bit to see it red here on this particular on revenues for Microsoft. They've been ripping revenues for a while. But if this dot is green, that represents a year-over-year increase in that fundamental data point. So quarter three 2024 is greater than quarter three 2023, and therefore that dot is green. The cloud underneath is going to represent the same color as the dot. So if the dot's green, the cloud's green. And then at the bottom of the cloud, you're going to see a gray dot. And that is the metric value for the same quarter in the previous year. Again, remember, that's quarter three 2023. You can see how this dot right here and this dot right here align. So that's kind of the basic of reading the indicator. Now we can use this visualization to gain a better understanding of what's happening on the chart, right? Let me go through some examples so you kind of have an idea of what I'm saying here. First up, we've got a multi-symbol view look of all the major names in the semiconductor space, right? Of course, we're all familiar with the AI boom. All eyes are on semis. Some are simply not performing as well as others. We've seen these huge ramps in NVIDIA, Supermicro, Broadcom, but then you have names like Intel, which are just simply not performing as well. Why is that? Well, one fundamental data point that seems to be suggesting why that's the case happens to be revenue. So I'm going to turn on my indicators here, and I've got revenue values added for each of these charts. And a very, very similar feeling is approaching, or we can see a very similar thing appearing here, right? You've got increasing in revenue over the past couple of years, 4 years or so for NVIDIA, specifically so over the past year. This thing has just been ripping revenue. Same look on SMCI, same look on Broadcom here, but then Intel really struggling. Back in quarter one of 2022, we saw those year-over-year revenues decrease, and this thing has just faced headwinds really kind of ever since, right? It's a very clear picture. So this is just a sheer visual understanding, or this is a visual comparison. What's happening with price? What's happening with revenues? We can take that idea and kind of expand upon it a little bit, and we can add technical analysis to it. So this next example, this is Micron, and we're looking at the same fundamental data point here. We're looking at revenues, but we're including now a technical analysis component, right? You have those increases in revs from quarter three 2020 all the way up to quarter three 2022, just off of those highs in 2022. This thing reverses year over year in quarter four of 2022, and we start really troughing out. And you see those year over year decreases for 5 quarters in a row. Now, quarter over quarter, they start increasing slightly after quarter two of 2023, where we kind of hit that bottom. They start increasing quarter over quarter for a couple of quarters, but we still haven't seen that year over year revenue flip. All at the same time that's happening, you're starting to base, we're building some slightly higher lows. If you're a Weinstein stage analysis analyst, if you're familiar with Weinstein stage analysis, this probably looks really familiar to you, right? You've got stage 4, we're coming out of stage 4, we gain that 30-week SMA, and then we start kind of grinding a little bit higher, trading just above that 30-week SMA, and then the real move out of stage 1 and into stage 2 comes off of the year-over-year revenues flipping positive here in quarter 1 of this year. So we get that year-over-year flip, we get that quarter-over-quarter pretty big increase, especially relative to the past couple of quarters. That's what gets us into this flag. We start consolidating for that entire quarter just below those 2022 highs. And then you have this second quarter of year-over-year revenue gains. Big increase quarter over quarter and year over year. And that's really what catapults this name out of that base and into new all-time highs, right? So now we've combined technical analysis and fundamental analysis at the same time. Now, this is just talking about revenues. We've just been looking at revenues so far. you can utilize these fundamentals and try and find different instances or different fundamental data points that have impacts on charts, have impacts on different names, and different names are impacted by different fundamentals. So this is one example that we found on Google here, and this is earnings per share, and it seems to have a really close relationship with earnings per share. How when earnings per share are increasing quarter to quarter and year over year, you get these outsized moves in the stock price. When they decrease year over year, you pull back in the stock. And then when it flips positive again year over year, those earnings per share values, when they flip positive, again, the stock is able to rally and turn back to the upside. With Amazon, it seems to be that gross profit margins are pretty important. Back in quarter three, 2021, you have the reverse, right? The year over year values flip negative right near the highs of 2021. The year over year values stay negative for 5 quarters in a row. That whole time, the stock is decreasing. Then you hit a bottom. Right at the bottom, you have year over year gross profit margins increasing. They flip positive and they've remained increasing for the past 6 quarters. What has the stock done that whole time? It has continued to grind higher. So, through these individual examples, I'm trying to give you guys an understanding of how we're thinking about the visualization component of utilizing fundamentals in your analysis. It's about finding instances in which fundamental metrics are aligning with price action. So, in a sense, helping to drive that price action, right? Remember, an additional key here, you want to merge those fundamentals with your technicals that you're already using. So, hopefully, these couple of examples got your gears turning a little bit. And now that we understand how to read the indicator, what we want to do is we want to take the next step from this sheer visualization into some actual discovery. How do we use fundamentals to spot value or find outliers that are perhaps bucking the trend, right? The I'm sorry. We can do this in a few different ways. I'm going to start with a brand new feature that we just brought to the platform. We call them market maps. Now, you're likely familiar with this. This is a standard market heat map. You see them all over. In standard market heat maps, the tile color is dictated by today's gain or loss. The size of the tile, it represents the company's market cap. Well, on TrendSpider, we've taken this idea to a whole new level. This is a TrendSpider market map. Now, my colleagues are going to put a link in the chat to the blog post that we wrote about market maps. I want you guys to have this so that you can go back and reference it. If I miss anything or if you miss anything in my explanation here, I want you guys to have a good resource that you can always refer to. But the idea here is we offer the ability to define nearly 60 price and fundamental metrics to create market maps that are, you know, truly custom tailored to your specific needs. Now, of course, you can create the market maps that you're used to, that daily percentage change with the market cap values, but you can also create market maps that are as unique as you want them to be. So let me talk you through kind of the process here. If you're familiar with this bottom toolbar, or specifically what's happening now, just to the right of what's happening now is the stock market maps. When you open up stock market maps, you're going to see some pre-made maps that we've gone ahead and created for you guys. You're welcome to utilize any of these, or you can build your own, and you would want to build your own via the custom map option. Now, when you open up the custom map option, it's going to be preloaded with a couple of criteria. And to edit that criteria, just click the title right here. And this is going to open up a drop-down menu with 3 additional drop-down menus. So the first one is your watch list. This is the set of names that you want to utilize for your market map. You can use any of the custom watch lists that we have pre-built. Talking, S&P 100, NASDAQ 100, the Russell, the 500, you can use sector lists like energy or telecommunications or what have you. You can even utilize lists that you've created for yourself. If you have a list of, your favorite tickers, maybe it's 50 tickers long or whatever, you can utilize those lists as well. You can define tile size. using any of those 60 values that I had mentioned. We've got a bunch of price change metrics, 18 of them. You can define percentage change for the day, percentage change off of the 52-week low, week to date change, 7 days calendar change, month to date change, 30 days calendar change, year to date, and full year change. And you can define both dollar change and percentage change here. And then we've got a bunch of different 42 different fundamental metrics. Think again, things like cost of revenue, EBITDA, free cash flow, market cap, these sorts of things, revenues. So a first idea for you guys when you're building your own market maps, the first thing to consider is the idea of creating a linear map. A linear map is where you define the tile size and the tile color as one metric, as the same metric. The idea here is just to be able to quickly visualize the values, an individual value, one value across all of the names in a list. So here we're looking simply at revenues. Walmart has the highest revenues of all of the names in the S&P 500. It is bright green. It is big as can be in that top left corner. And then the names with the lowest revenues are down here in the bottom right corner. And whenever you create a linear chart like this, you're going to see a look that looks like this. It's going to be kind of rainbow colored. All of the greens in the upper left, all of the reds in the upper right. The blue color represents kind of like the median value across the whole set of names here. So that's a first idea. But this is just, again, this is just a first idea. You can take this analysis a little bit further and utilize, let me just make this a little bit smaller so I can see here. You can take this idea a little bit further and utilize multiple metrics at once. So here we're looking at the NASDAQ 100. We're comparing revenue. Revenue is defining the tile size. Net profit margins are defining the tile color. So very quickly, we can discern a handful of things from this particular market map. The first thing here, Amazon, it's got the most revenue. It's the biggest box of the bunch, right? But it's got thin margins. It's red. So it takes home, or Amazon takes home just 7.3% or $7.30 in profit for every $100 in revenue. Costco, similar. It's got huge revs, but small margins. With Google and Microsoft and Apple here, these three blocks highlight the sheer size and scale of their businesses. They have large margins, they take, or rather, they keep a lot of what they make, and they make a lot of money. Now, with NVIDIA down here in the bottom, brightest green, we know that NVIDIA is one of the largest companies in the world. I believe it's the third largest company in the world now. But just based off of its size, the size of the block, I mean, you can see that it's lacking revenue. The secret for them is their margins. These guys keep over 55 cents of every dollar they make. That's 7.5x more than Amazon. So in essence, it takes Amazon over $7 in revenue to make the same profit as NVIDIA makes on $1 of revenue. You can also make market maps to drill down and find areas of value within groups. So let me show you another example here. We're going to zoom out and zoom back in. And let me switch this, apologies, let me switch this back to the 100 here, the S&P 100. Now, in this particular map, we're looking at gross profit and we're looking at price to earnings ratio. And this map tells us some interesting things too. First, for Google, it costs about $26 to buy $1 of profit in Google, which isn't really too shabby considering the S&P currently trades at about 27x earnings. For Amazon, on the other hand, it trades at 61x earnings. It's the most expensive big tech company due to its thin margins. Now, alternatively, we can see that telecom companies, specifically AT&T here and Verizon here, and then also some energy companies, XOM and CVX. These guys trade relatively cheaply compared to the other constituents within the S&P 100. So what this map allows us to do is identify several sectors, telecom, energy, that represent potential value within this larger group, right? And maybe the next step here is that we want to explore explore those individual sectors to see if that value actually translates when those individual names are compared with their own peers. And we can do that really simply. We don't have to do much here. We just have to come up to the watch list and change the watch list that we're referring to. So I'm going to check out how CVX and XOM compare to their peers in energy. So we just say apply. And when we look at that, we find that XOM, although it was cheap relative to the names in the S&P 100, it's actually pretty expensive relative to the rest of the names in the energy sector. CVX is a little bit more in line with what is average for those names. It's a blue color, so it's a little bit more average. But that's kind of the idea, right? This is the big part of how you can put market maps to work for you. You can filter for the fundamental or price criteria that matters most to you, and then you can refine it down based off of individual sectors. With market maps, what we're doing is we're blurring the line between visualization and discovery. There's a little bit of both here, right? It's the visual component of the market map that allows us to quickly and easily discover outliers and opportunities. So now we've visualized some interesting relationships between price movements and the underlying fundamental metrics that play a hand in driving those movements. We've utilized maps to drill down and gain an understanding of how the fundamentals vary across names within individual sectors and indexes. This gives us an idea of fundamentals that we might be on the hunt for across the market. So now it's time to get into that sheer discovery mode. We're looking for setups, and we're going to do that using the market scanner. So I'm going to remove this tab, and I'm going to grab a final tab for you guys. I'm going to go back to MU here. I want to start with this idea on Micron. Now I'm sorry. I'm sorry. One second, you guys. I apologize. Let me go back one moment here. Okay. Just want to make sure. I want to remind you guys about this setup on Micron. Remember, we saw 5 quarters in a row of year-over-year decreases in revenues. Then we saw that change in that year-over-year where it went positive year-over-year in quarter 1. That kind of aligned with that move on the 30-day or 30-week moving average, right? We kind of gained the 30-week moving average, and then we pushed up past it. And then we had that second quarter of year-over-year growth. So this is kind of the setup, right? And perhaps we want to take this idea and find this idea occurring in the market right now. So we can actually do that. So how do we do that? Well, we've created a scan that we call the revenue flip scan. So let me go and grab that here real quick. And again, my guys in the chat, we've got a link to this scanner that we're going to be able to share with y'all. If any of you guys are TrendSpider traders already, you can access all of the scans that I'm going to be sharing coming up here. You can download them or upload them right into your account and start utilizing them today. If you're not already a TrendSpider trader, this is one great reason for you to consider taking advantage of the final day of our sale. With the ability to share scans, you will have instant access to the ideas that I'm about to go through. So again, for that first idea, we're going back to that idea on Micron, or we're going back to that look on Micron. And we are identifying it using a handful of criteria here. Remember, we want to define 5 quarters of year-over-year declines. We've done that using these 5 conditions right here. Whenever you want to define quarter over quarter, you would just compare a quarter to the previous one like this. If anybody's a TrendSpider trader already, you're probably familiar with this functionality. To define year over year, you would just offset it by 4 quarters, right? So we would say 1 quarter, 1 quarter ago is less than 4 quarters ago, right? So that's that year over year decline. So these 5 conditions get us those year over year declines. And then we want to define the year over year increase, right? So that happens right here, this condition where we say the current quarter is greater than 4 quarters ago. So that's that flip. We've also defined 2 quarters of growth. So instead of year over year growth, we are defining quarter over quarter growth using these 2 conditions. And then we're defining that price is closed greater than the 30-week SMA. Remember, again, that's that Weinstein stage 1, coming out of stage 1 into stage 2. And so when we run this scan, we get back a handful of results. And some similar things start to appear. You've got that move over the 30, consolidating over the 30. Here's your first quarter flip year over year after 5 quarters of year over year declines. Let's keep on looking through some names here. This is the one that really stuck out to me was Western Digital here. It looks so much like Micron did. It has those 5 quarters of declines. You have that nice flip here year over year. We're up and over that 30-week SMA. We're right into those old highs. Again, let me remind you of what that MU chart looked like when we had that first flip. Here's your first year over year flip. We're trading right at those old 2021 highs. We'll go back to WDC here. So this is a very clean looking setup, just like that MU setup. And what this leads me to start thinking about is like, well, maybe what this name needs to really catapult it out of this big base that it's been stuck in for some years now is that next quarter of year over year revenue growth. Well, when I visualize the earnings dates on my chart, I can see those earnings are not until the end of July. We're at the end of May here. That's 2 months away. So much can happen during that time. I might totally forget about Western Digital between now and then, and I might totally miss this. So what we can do with fundamentals now, another piece of functionality that we've added for fundamentals is the ability to alert on fundamental criteria happening. So maybe what we want to do is we want to create an alert for not just quarter over quarter growth, but that year over year, like that second year over year move. If that comes, I want to be alerted on it. So how do we do that? Well, let me show you really quickly how we do that. What I'm going to do is I've got my conditions here. I'm going to go ahead and save them as a template. I'm going to call this revenue flip positive and say save. And so now this is saved as a script. And because it's saved as a script, I can come into my alerts here. I can create a multi-factor alert. I can click on the 3 dots, go to load from template, type in revenue flip positive, and load that script in, right? So now, essentially, what I'm going to do is I'm creating an alert based off of these conditions being true. But there's something that we need to change here, right? Because this doesn't define everything that we've just defined. It's defining what's happening right now. If we were to create this alert, it's just going to go off on Monday because all of this stuff is true. We want to add one more month, or rather one more quarter of year over year growth. Since this particular line in this script defines that first quarter of year over year growth, we can duplicate it and we can set it back by one year over year, right? So now we're going to be defining the first quarter of year over year growth, and then here's your second quarter of year over year growth, and then I can just remove this guy right here. We still have all of our multiple quarters of year over year declines. We have our quarters of quarter over quarter growth, price above the SMA, all that stuff. Now this is set how we want it. So I can come in here and I could say WDC year over year growth alert. I could choose how long this alert's in my system. Since I know that earnings aren't until the end of July, I want to give this plenty of time. I want this to be active when those earnings come out. So I choose the expiry, I create the alert, and there it's living in my system. So now I don't have to monitor WDC. I don't have to, keep track of when their earnings report is. All I have to do is set the alert. The platform is going to alert me if we do get that second quarter of year over year growth, and then I can decide whether or not I want to get involved in the name. So we've just created a scan based off of a fundamental setup that we identified simply by visually analyzing a chart, right? That's pretty cool. Another idea for using fundamentals in your scanner is using them as a filtering layer along with your favorite technical setups. Now, like many of you guys, we here at TrendSpider, we have our favorite scanners that we put to work every day. We use them to find setups that we share with the community via our social feeds, our blogs, our Discord channel, and so on. Now, many of those scanners can be found in your shared scanners list. Over here on the left-hand side of your scanner, you'll see it opens up. a favorite, for example, a favorite functionality amongst our users is our ability to scan for chart pattern setups. You're probably familiar with the ability to be able to automatically identify chart patterns of all kinds, broadening patterns, channels, double tops and bottoms, head and shoulders, inverse head and shoulders, triangles, wedges. Well, because the platform can automatically identify those patterns, we can also scan for them. So I'm going to utilize a pattern scanner that I personally really like. It's the good old falling wedge breakout scan. So if you just go into your search bar here in your scanner, type in falling wedge, you'll see a bunch of options. I'm going to grab this one, the falling wedge breakout. And so when I run this scan, we get a handful of results. You'll see which ones come up. And you see the platform's automatically identifying that falling wedge and price breaking out of that falling wedge. Well, we can utilize fundamentals as a filtering layer as well. We've got a handful of results here. Maybe we want to whittle down those results a little bit by some sort of specific fundamental data point. So let's use, I don't know, EPS for this. Let's say we want to look for month over, or rather quarter over quarter increases in EPS. So what we can do, we can come in here, say condition, we go to fundamentals. I can type in earnings per share and say greater than fundamentals earnings per share 1 quarter ago. So now I've just defined that the earnings per share this quarter are greater than the earnings per share last quarter. If I want to, I can duplicate this, make it 1 quarter ago and 2 quarters ago. So now I've defined 2 quarters in a row of earnings per share growth along with that falling wedge breakout. So I'm giving fundamental strength to this technically strong pattern, right? And I can rerun this scan. And now I just get back 2 results. And to be quite honest, they're kind of the best looking results of the bunch. So you can utilize these fundamentals as a layer to your already technical scans. Another one that I want to share with you guys is called True Market Leaders. This one is one that's super popular amongst our users. The guys have a link to this scan as well. They're going to go ahead and share that in the chat for y'all so you guys can have it. Now, this one, it looks pretty intense. I promise it's not. It's actually pretty simple. This thing is looking for exactly what it's called, true market leaders. These are strong uptrends here. That's what we're defining. And how are we defining it? Well, we're defining it in a couple of different ways. These two conditions here are just simply filtering layers. We're saying the stock's above $10. We're saying that it does on average 500,000 shares per day in volume. And then we get into the strength part. We're defined RSI as being above 50 for the past 5 weeks. We're defining in this particular condition group that price is above all of the major moving averages. That's the 20, 50, 100, 150, and 250. And then in this condition group, we're defining that the moving averages are in alignment with one another, meaning they are in order from shortest to longest, top to bottom. So the 20s above the 50s, above the 100, above the 150, above the 200. So strong, strong trend here. And then finally, we've got an analyst upgrade kicker within the last 90 days. And over here on the right-hand side, these are all the results that come up. And as you can see, there's a lot of them. And these names, a lot of them look really good, right? They all look like they're in strong uptrends. They're all interesting names, but there's a lot of results. And when it comes to scanning, one of the goals of scanning is to whittle down your results as much as possible to get you to the thing that you're really, really looking for. By scanning and getting 30 results, now you got to do the work of looking through all 30 or 40 or 50 names. Well, we want to avoid that. So we can utilize fundamentals to do it. And what I've done, or what we've done, is we've created the True Market Leaders Plus Fundamentals scan. And in this, it's the exact same conditions as we just went over on the technical side, but then on the fundamental side, we've added a revenue increase year over year. We've added an earnings per share increase year over year, and we've added that shares that they've actually decreased the amount of shares on the open market over the past year. And when we do that, you can see how much the results get whittled down and reduced. Now we're just left with, it's like 9 or 10 names, and these are the best of the bunch as far on the true market leader side, on that technical side, and they're meeting our minimum fundamental criteria. Now, do you have to utilize these specific fundamental criteria? Of course not. No, you can add any fundamental criteria that makes sense for you, for your trading style, for what you're interested in. You can create your own copy using this option right here. Add the fundamental criteria that makes sense for you, and and you'll be off to the races. A final scan that we came up with that we wanted to share with you guys is one that we're calling the Value Spotter scan. So I'm going to open up my market scanner here, and again, I'm going to search Value Spotter. We're going to grab it. Now, again, my guys have the link in the chat to this scan as well. So if you'd like it, feel free to upload it to your account. Remember earlier, we were looking at market maps, trying to find value with the S&P or within the S&P 100, right? We saw the XOM, we saw energy names, we saw telecom. They were relatively cheap, or they were cheap relative to many of the other names in the list. Well, the idea here is a little bit similar. We're just using different fundamental metrics. For this one, we're looking for potentially hidden value, and we're finding it by searching for names that are steadily increasing their sales per share year over year, while at the same time not diluting, but that have yet to really see the moves in price that reflect that change in sales, that increase in those sales. In essence, we're looking for names that the market hasn't quite discovered yet. Perhaps they haven't had that one big quarter that really pushes them positive on another fundamental data point. We're not really sure why these names aren't performing, but they're kind of potential ticking time bombs because they are still creating value. So how are we defining that? Well, the first thing that we're defining here in this first parameter is that the current close price is currently closed within range of the close 10 weeks ago by 10%, by no more than 10%, meaning this thing hasn't budged. These names haven't really budged over the past 2.5 months. These names have just kind of made marginal gains or marginal losses. They've kind of just traded sideways. For that sales per share increase, we've defined 4 quarters of year-over-year growth. And we've not just defined growth, but we've actually defined a minimum percentage of that growth as well. So know that you can do that using the 3 dots to the right here. You can define the percentage that they've grown by. So 4 quarters ago, those sales per share grew by 10% at least. 3 quarters ago, they grew by 10%. 2 quarters ago, they grew by about 5% or more. And then this quarter, they grew by 1% or more. We've defined that the market hasn't really discovered them using a long-term EMA. In this case, we're using the 200 EMA, and we're just defining price as closing below the 200 EMA. That's kind of just saying stock isn't in an uptrend. And then finally, we've defined that they have not diluted as those sales per share have increased. We've defined they haven't diluted by saying that the shares right now, the amount of shares right now are less than or equal to the amount of shares when we first started looking at the sales per share increases 7 quarters ago. And when we run that scan, we really just get a small handful of names. I know to the gang at the company, that PayPal seemed to really kind of stick out. But just overall, they all are kind of looking the same way. Again, the idea here is not necessarily that we should be jumping into these trades. We should be letting them kind of work, and we should be monitoring potentially other fundamental data points to see what happens next quarter. Is there some big change in maybe revenues or EPS or whatever it might be? Maybe there's some other fundamental data point that will cause these guys to get moving finally. And my thought here is, since that 200 EMA is defining that downtrend, if we want to be getting into these things once they're in an uptrend, maybe we want to be looking for them to gain that 200 EMA. So in this particular case, what I might do is I might just create an alert on that EMA itself, like a breakthrough alert, and just let the platform notify me when price gets above that 200 EMA. That might be, obviously, for anything to move higher, it's got to get above those longer term moving averages first. So that'll be my trigger to kind of start really monitoring some of these names. And then I can go into the fundamentals, kind of a little deeper into the fundamentals, and see if there's anything in there that, specifically seems to really get the name moving. So that's kind of the scanners that we wanted to share with you. While we're here in the scanner, I've got just a couple of other things that I want to showcase, and then we're going to wrap this thing up. The first thing that I want to show you guys is something that we're calling scheduled scanning. So what is scheduled scanning? It's exactly what it sounds like. Once you've found a scan that really appeals to you, maybe you want to go back and you want to utilize that true market leader scan with the fundamentals. You know, once you found a scan that really resonates, you're probably checking for those conditions all the time. Well, with scheduled scanning, you can run your favorite scanner on a schedule. So you just click on the three dots to access this. Click on the three dots, click run this scanner on a schedule, and then you're going to see this menu. And here you can define the days that you want that scanner to run. You can have it run Monday through Sunday if you're looking for, crypto related stuff. Monday through Friday if you're just looking at individual stocks. You can define the time of day that you want to receive this scan. You can define different times of day for different days if that's what makes sense for you. The whole idea is here is time savings. Every day you're going to your computer, you're running scans, you're looking for names meeting the criteria. With this functionality, you set it once, and then the platform sends the results of the scan to you at a time that you define. So let me show you kind of what that looks like. Here's the email that you're going to receive. So it comes straight to your email at the days and times you define. At the top here, there's a little bit of information about kind of what is going on with the list, how many symbols are on it, how many it had found the previous day, how those values have changed. The list of names is also color coded. So the blue names are new names to the list. The red names are names that were on the list on the previous scan. They are no longer on the list now. The gray names are ones that were on the list previously. They are again on the list now. So this is a quick visual understanding of what's going on with your list. And then if you scroll down to the bottom, we've got this open in browser link. So if you click that, what that's going to do, it's going to create a shareable link. So let's say you have a couple of friends that you like to share your watch lists with. Well, you can give them this link. And this link is going to update every single time the scan updates as well. Pretty cool little functionality. At the bottom, if you have a Discord channel, if you have a website, if you have some sort of service where you're providing this information to other users or other traders, you can embed the scanner results into your website, or you can fetch this list via an API. So you can connect it to your Discord or what have you. And have all of these names sent directly to anybody who you want to see them. So that is the scheduled scanning. And then one last little piece here, maybe one of my favorite little functionalities of the platform. We call this thing a smart checklist over here on the right-hand side. And the idea of a smart checklist is that you can load conditions into it and you can get an instant reading of whether or not those conditions are true. So on the right here, inside my smart checklist currently, I have that true market leader scan. And so it's telling me, or it's visualizing all of the conditions within that scan. And next to each condition, there's going to be a red or a green box. That red or green box delineates whether that condition is true. So I can see that this particular condition is true, and then this particular condition is true of the true market leaders conditions. All of the other conditions are not true. As I go through a watch list, you'll see that you'll see that the list is going to update based off of the names that we're looking at, or based off of the name that we're looking at. In this particular case, everything is true on the True Market Leaders scan for AXP here. Well, when it comes to fundamentals, in most cases, traders who are interested in fundamentals are interested in more than one fundamental data point, right? And so if you're interested in more than one fundamental data point, it's just like with your technicals. If you want to see price making a new 52-week high and you want to see it above XYZ moving averages and you want to see RSI above a certain point and you want to see MACD positive, all of that requires visual on-chart elements to visualize, right? And that can get kind of time consuming to visually analyze all of those things. So that's the idea behind the checklist. Well, we can include fundamentals here. So I'm going to grab that I'll grab a different one. Let me grab a fundamentals here. So I've got just a basic fundamentals to watch script. This is just something I kind of quickly put together. We're looking for cash and cash equivalents increasing over the past couple of quarters. We're looking for the cost of revenue decreasing over the past couple of quarters. We're looking for dividends per share increasing year over year over the past 2 quarters. And what I could do is I could choose this script and input it into my fundamental, or rather into my smart checklist. And it's going to check for all that fundamental criteria occurring in real time. And again, I can just pop through my list and I can see what names are meeting the criteria, what names are not meeting the criteria, and I can make decisions based off of that, right? Instead of having to pull up all those individual fundamental metrics one by one or have a handful of fundamental indicators down here at the bottom of my chart, I can input any fundamental data point that I want. I can define it however I want, and then the platform is going to automatically deliver me that information. What is true? What is not true? Is the criteria that's important to me being met, or is it not being met? So, gang, let's recap everything that's now possible on TrendSpider, revolving around fundamentals. So first, you can visualize hundreds of fundamental metrics directly on your chart. This adds an incredibly useful layer to your on-chart analysis. It allows you to see, in essence, trends that are hiding in plain sight. Remember, we saw Amazon with those gross profit margins. This was a key factor in, or this, you could argue that this was a key factor in Amazon finding a bottom and finally pushing higher. Same deal for Google here. Let me grab that really quick. We saw those EPS values. When the EPS values flip positive, this thing got nice and moving. So you can do that now, right? You can build customizable market maps. Let's go back to an image of that market map, right? You can build customizable market maps. These guys can help you to discover outliers within your favorite indexes, sectors, industries. You can bring those fundamentals into your scans now. That allows you to hunt for specific fundamental criteria across the markets, and it lets you add those key fundamental layers to your technical scans. So that's getting you even closer to the names that matter to you the most. So what does this all mean for you? Well, it really means two things, right? It means time savings and it means financial savings. Historically, in order to have access to this kind of fundamental data, you need an account with some kind of fundamental data provider. Multiple accounts, as we all know, it costs extra money and it really forces you to split focus. You're looking at your charts now, you're jumping over here to look at fundamentals, you're going back to your charts, and all of a sudden you've missed something on your chart. By keeping your analysis in one place, you're really going to be able to stay more focused from moment to moment, and you're going to be able to save some serious cash while you do it. So just a quick reminder to you guys, today is the final day of our Memorial Day sale. The discount is pretty darn good, especially for those yearly accounts. You get 6 months free, up to 60% off. The guys are linking you in the chat to a link to this page. If you're not currently a TrendSpider trader, I urge you to consider giving the platform a shot. It's never been more powerful than it is today. And with the deal that we have going on, I think you're going to find that its value far exceeds its cost. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to open it up to questions. If anybody has any questions, do feel free to reach out. I see, Ralph, you're asking about back testing revenue. Unfortunately, it's not possible at this time to utilize fundamental data in the strategy tester. Hopefully that will come in the future. I can't say for sure when that will be, but at this time, it's not possible. Ah, yes. So James, that's a good point, right? That's a good point. You can do it if you create a custom indicator using JavaScript, for sure. That's true. Data for Canadian stocks. At this time, we do not. Again, hopefully that'll come in the future. Options flow. So we do offer unusual options. Over here on the right-hand side, we've got the unusual options widget. So you can kind of see that. Let me go to a name that has them really quick. We'll just go to SPY here so you can see. So this is unusual options. Unusual options is any, or rather an unusual option is any options order above $25,000. This is going to show us the most recent 250 unusual options orders. You can filter this by expiration date, by premium, by strike. The scanner runs on real-time data. A sim? Scanner for FTX? Not yet. Craig, cheers. Any other questions? Lewis, James is going to be your guy here. He's going to be able to help you. James runs our customer support team, so he'll be able to help you out with that. You're looking, an anonymous attendee says you're looking to do less analysis. Does your trading bot have entry and exit points? Absolutely. Yep. You just have to define them. So you would access the trading bot through the strategy tester. So you just define your entry and your exit, and then set that thing off to the races. How can you spot bought versus sold? So in what's happening now, what I'd recommend for you to do is check out what's happening now. And inside what's happening now, there's a couple of things you can do with unusual options. You know, what's happening now has a lot of different data that comes into it. And one of those data points is unusual options. What I would do inside your unusual options is I would utilize the tags filter and say that it contains sweeps, or rather contains things like sweep at ask, and then define either call or put. Essentially, the idea here is if somebody is sweeping at the ask in either direction, whether it be calls or puts, it's a conviction. It's usually a conviction trade. So those are going to be kind of a little bit more clear. There isn't a direct way to say it's a buy or it's a sell, but that would be kind of the most conviction option, or that would be how you would identify the most conviction orders of the group. And honestly, when I'm utilizing what's happening now, I almost always have it filtered for sweeps at the ask, or even sweeps above the ask. Because think about it, if they're sweeping, they're looking for it, they just want to get it. They're looking anywhere to get that particular options contract. And then if they're paying above the ask, you know, that kind of speaks for itself, right? They're willing to pay up for it. It means they really want to get in. Sub 1 minute time frame for scalpers. I'm uncertain when or if that might come. That would be awesome. As far as continuous scanner functionality, the scheduled scanning is the first step of that. So we're testing that scheduled scanner and seeing how much you guys use it, how much you're interested in it. As we kind of understand that, then we'll be hopefully increasing the functionality there. As far as iPad functionality, can't really speak to that. If there's something that you are specifically looking for, please write into the chat. Please write into the chat and let them know what it is that you're after. The more understanding we can have about what you need, the better. Bala, the presentation is going to be available on YouTube as soon as not as soon as we're done, but later on today. It'll be up on YouTube. You can reach out to the support team later on today and they can hit you with a link to it as well. Dirk, thank you for the kind words. Anthony, unfortunately, our data provider just doesn't provide that information right now. Now you can, Asim, you can certainly identify news blips. You know, we've got the news widget here. You can also bring news into the what's happening now widget, and you could like kind of define it or you know, tag it with certain keywords if you want. But specifically pointing to a news thing and saying that's what caused price to move, that is not something we're going to be able to automatically do. Mohammed, unfortunately, fundamentals are not available in the strategy tester just yet. So including them in the variance explorer is also not possible. Elliott wave, there's no assisted Elliott wave analysis just yet. Brett, cheers to you. Schwab bot integration. James, maybe you can answer that question. I know I'm a Schwab user now too. And the whole TOS integration, it was not possible. And now that integration seems done. So perhaps it's possible now. I have not looked into it personally just yet. Is there a script for anchored VWAPs with alerts? You can create one. Yep. The trick with the anchored VWAPs is that in order to use it in a script, you have to define the anchor to point, and you want to make it continuous. So highest high, lowest low, a week to date, a quarter to date, year to date, and so on. You do have to define the anchor to point. You cannot manually put on an anchored VWAP like that, like I just did. You cannot manually do that and then use this VWAP in a script. You'd have to define it as anchored to the lowest low within X candles. Absolutely, Bala. You can trade futures on the platform. Cheers, Gert. Cheers, Amanu. Cheers, Daniel. Any last minute questions, guys? We're at an hour. I don't want to keep anybody from their day. I'm sure some of you guys have big days ahead of drinking beer at the pool and barbecuing and spending time with your families. So again, I just want to remind you guys, today is the final day for the Memorial Day sale. The best deal you're going to get is going to be on that yearly plan, that annual plan, 6 months free, up to 60% off. This is a monster deal, only available until the end of the day today. So if you're interested, if you're not yet a TrendSpider user, never been a better time to take advantage of a great offer and get yourself signed up today. If you guys, Bala, regular training session, you can certainly sign up for one. James is going to be answering your question there. Cheers, Kevin. Almost overwhelming. It certainly is true, but lots of stuff to help with your analysis and your whole entire process every day. So don't let it overwhelm you. Just take one piece at a time. Ralph, cheers to you, sir. Errol, cheers to you. Going once, going twice. Last call for questions. All right. Yeah. Any other questions? If you guys have them, click right down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the website, this little chat icon. You know, I'm going to take 1 second and shout out the customer support team. These guys work so hard. They're here every single day of the week, about 20 hours a day during the week, about 7 or 8 hours a day on the weekend. Could be more now. I'm actually not sure, but we have somebody in chat, a live person in chat every day of the week. There's always someone around who can answer a question for you. So do not hesitate to reach out to these guys. They are here to help and help, get you where you need to be. They can help with all kinds of things too, answering basic questions to helping you build out, script ideas. If you're needing help, you don't completely understand how to define this or that thing. Those guys can help you out there too. So, all right, y'all. Well, we're going to call it. Again, huge thank you to everybody who stuck around to the end. Amara, Meet, Andreas, Anar, BB, Bala, Brett, Carlos, Chadwick, Chris, Daniel, Dave, Dennis, Dirk, Flavio, Goran, James, JJ, Keith, Kobe, all you guys. We really, really appreciate y'all being here. Hope you have a great rest of your holiday. Take advantage of this deal. It's available for the rest of the day. And we'll see you guys all again very soon, hopefully. All right. All right, guys. Have a great one. We'll take care and we'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.